Yeah. Some things we have on our calendar and we expect, and some things you can never prepare for or expect. We did our menorah lighting at Stevenson Ranch last night, and we had a really nice turnout. We've had a little bit more, sometimes we had like literally 4 or 5 people in the past come and for that. And over the last year we had really nice crowd. This year we had even more people. And again, it was about 20. It wasn't, 25 people. It wasn't 100 people, but the menorah lighting in Stevenson Ranch was always like, oh, well, we're in charge of that menorah at the temple, and that's why we do it. But we never knew how many people would come, and we do it because you're supposed to do public menorah lightings, but we never know how many people are going to be there, and um, yeah, as it turns out, we had another reason to do it because um, we had another horrible attack on the Jewish community. Um, you know, in a moment like that, the first thing, of course, you do is reach out to people in the community there. So, we reached out to our friends who live in Melbourne, that very close friend of mine, and his wife and his family that live in Melbourne. We reached out to them just to make sure that they were safe and just, kind of if they knew people who were there. And the my friends there, the wife is very involved in the Jewish community. She's one of the leaders of Australia's Jewish community, and we've been talking about the anti-Semitism there over the last few years frequently. Uh, so, and she's a child of Holocaust survivors. So this was something that she was raised in, a sense of Jewish identity and Jewish pride that came out of violence and the darkest chapters of Jewish and human history. Melbourne had the largest uh, population of Holocaust survivors of any city in the large city in the world. There was no city that had more Holocaust survivors per capita than Melbourne. People don't realize that, but it had a huge Holocaust survivor community. And so these are people who fled. I mean, in my estimation, they went to the end of the world to get away from anti-Semitism. Some of their families went to Israel. Some of their families went to the United States. They went to Australia, which again, in my mind, I never talked to one of these people myself, and there are, believe it or not, there are still some who are alive, who are with us. Should ask. Actually, Alan Lowy, the man who started Westfield Corporation, came to Australia with nothing, and his family ended up, him and his family, his kids, his son Peter here in L.A. They owned virtually every mall in America by the 2000s. The Westfield Corporation was huge, but yeah, Alan Lowe, he started that corporation, was a survivor who came to Australia with nothing. But I always wanted to ask these people who are survivors, you wanted to get the furthest away from Europe and from that part of the world as possible. You must have, because maybe if I can get to the other end of the world, I'm going to get away from this kind of hatred. I don't go to Israel. I don't, I know there's going to be problems and there's going to be hatred there. But maybe if I can get to Australia, I can get away from this. And they didn't, unfortunately. So, and Australia did not have a horrible history of anti-Semitism and violence until, these last couple of years. And it's very sad to see what's happened there. So that was a horrible way to begin Hanukkah. And and then we saw this horrible murder, Rob Reiner, and you know, I've been I've been racking my brains over the last couple of years because, or the last couple of days, sorry, because, and actually over the last couple of years, my dad had this amazing archive of interviews of people that he talked to, and he talked to Rob Reiner a few years ago. Actually, it was probably a long time ago, and there's a video of the interview that he did, and I was trying to find it, and now all of his videos are at the American Jewish Archives in Cincinnati, which is great because they're going to work with me and we're going to archive them all and put them all up. But in the meantime, until they're done, it's really frustrating because when something like this happens, I'm like, oh, I know there's an interview with uh, with Rob Reiner. I would love to hear, if there's something there that you feel like, oh, this is now part of the legacy of stuff that he has. Actually, I'll show you. It's like a 1 minute clip. And by the way, I don't know what was on the rest of this interview, but could be kind of important. Actually, let me share it. Just wait. Here, let me pop this up real quick. I'm gonna put it up. Here we go. This is in the archives.
What you get from your parents is a way in which they live their lives. That's what you get from them. It's not so much what they might specifically say about one thing or another, a value or an ethic, but it's generally how they live their lives and the morality and integrity by which they live their lives that is what you learn from.
Wow. Well, that's kind of ironic, don't you think? Yeah, but that's ironic for him to say. Hello? Yeah, I understand, but that's ironic. He's talking about the morality you get from your parents. Anyways, look, I don't know what's. I understand. Yeah. Well, let me just again tell you, I'd love to see what he said about what he learned from his father and mother. His father was one of the funniest men in the world, honestly, one of the funniest men who ever lived. So it would be interesting to see. And again, his contributions to American storytelling are undeniable. Undeniable. Few
His
good, few good
Suzanne
men.
Singer.
Princess Bride. I don't need to tell you that Judith Stolnitz's favorite movie, Princess Bride.
Suzanne Singer is our rabbi, at Bethel.
I know. Oh, that's
And
true. Yeah, his sister-in-law,
yeah,
Michelle, his wife's sister, is a rabbi.
and we've often had the discussions about because as you know, in my family we've had drug problems too. And about this son, and just how alienated he was from the rest of the family. And just, it's a big complex, it's a big house that they live in. And he would go to sections of the house and they wouldn't see him for weeks at a
Yeah,
time. He'd DoorDash his food in and out. And
yeah, yeah. From what I understand, he had his own like casita, his own little house in
yeah,
the back.
yeah. They
Yeah,
just
no, I'm
weren't
sure, Gail, that
family
this hits
pride.
home, and this hits
Yeah.
home in a horrible way for you and for a lot of people who've had family members that have been stuck in addiction and again go in and out of times of health and then times of just terrible loss. And
Well,
it's
he was homeless at one time. You know what
yeah,
it is to have a kid that's homeless on the street? It's
yeah,
horrendous. You just
yeah,
and you have to make them leave your home, and because their behavior is not acceptable, and it's just one of the most heartbreaking thing a parent can do.
yeah, yeah. And so this was a horrific thing, and which again leads me to just one thing I want to say about the blowback on the horrible comments the president made. A lot of people yesterday were horrified by what Trump said about Rob Reiner. You should be. Everybody should be. What you do with that feeling is, I think, more telling because, again, the man's proven to just give you exactly what you wished you wouldn't have happened, but does. If you're upset about it, which you should be, it's good to talk about it. You can't let these comments go without saying, "Hey, this is wrong," because it will. if we get desensitized to it, if we just say, well, that's just, that's just what he does, then it's not good for our country. We need to have a standard of behavior that is acceptable. Of course, the people that are rushing to condemn it are people who generally in public don't like him, have already had an issue with them. The Republicans who jumped on right away, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Thomas Massey, all the people that hate him, obviously took the opportunity to make it. But again, this isn't just about politics. It's about morality. It's about what's acceptable forms of behavior. And one of the interesting things I've heard from a lot of people who are Democrats and people who are on the other side of the political spectrum, and not from Republicans, but who said essentially, look, if somebody like Mitt Romney was president, Mitt Romney never would have done this. Of course he wouldn't have. Because again, you can disagree with someone politically, and make no mistake about it, Rob Reiner hated Donald Trump. He took every opportunity to do that. So again, the normal behavior that we've seen in public is for somebody, first of all, they don't say anything. Because again, in Judaism and most religious traditions, we're taught if you don't like somebody, and you just don't say anything. But if you're compelled to say something, you say something that, has more heart, has some kind of things. Like every family is touched, is by addiction. And this is a horrible, thing. We disagreed with everything. He was horrible to me, whatever you want to say. What you say, but it's a terrible loss. That's what you normally say. But I've heard when somebody says, yeah, but Mitt Romney wouldn't have done something like this. That's right. I agree with you. And we need to understand that. And remember, we are, God willing, please, we will get back to normalcy in this country when it comes to political discourse and the way, I'm hoping this is an aberration. I'm hoping it happened and we're going to move beyond it. And then we'll have Democrats and Republicans, and we'll have people who disagree with each other, and we'll have polarization and everything else, but not this. Remember what you said, because when a Republican who is elected, who isn't somebody you agree with politically, but behaves in a normal fashion, remember what you said and go back to that feeling of saying, I don't like this. I don't like what's happening. I don't like these comments. You can disagree with someone politically, but not this. Just remember that. Use this as a lesson, and it'll make our country better. Because again, we don't want to ever normalize this kind of behavior. We're not going to ever say, yeah, but that's just politics, or it's not. This is not right. And again, I've had people who I'm opposed to, or people who I disagree with politically and socially, and people who have been on the other side of stuff, and people who've done everything they could to destroy me. And I still would never make a comment like this, even in the worst of my disgust and hatred of the things that they did. I would never do that. And nobody should. So again, just remember that feeling and use it as a touchstone the next time you feel like you feel disempowered or angry, and you're on the other side. So with that, by the way, there's also obviously for us been some good stuff. I don't post on Facebook, so people. Well, I do, but I don't post personal stuff. I don't like it when I see people posting stuff that is not necessarily other people's business, and I don't do it myself. But yes, we are very happy. Dina is engaged. We were not surprised. We were expecting it. We knew it. We actually knew that it was happening that day, and it's wonderful. And but yeah, I don't post a lot. I reposted what Tracy posted. But yes, we're very happy, and we went down to San Diego Sunday, or I did, to be with her and celebrate the first night of Hanukkah and this stuff. So yes, there's been some really good stuff in the last few days, in addition to just like some devastating news. I also want to tell you that that in a nutshell is life, right? You go through life, and sometimes there's good stuff, and sometimes there's tough, really tough things. And we don't really understand how it comes and why it comes. And And that actually leads us to what we're going to talk about today, which is the kings of Judah. There are good kings and there are bad kings. There's kings that start off good and wind up bad. There's kings that start off bad and wind up good. There's some that start off good and wind up good, and some that are bad that wind up bad. There's all different forms. But what's interesting is that when we read this, as we did in Kings, but even maybe more so here, the kings, the kings who, the kings who are good, are the good guys, don't necessarily live a really long time, which is not what you'd expect. Now, of course, some of the bad kings clearly are also living a long time and don't seem to deserve it. And then there's the whole bigger issue, which is eventually the whole kingdom comes to an end. And why does it come to an end? Why does it finally come to an end? Well, the Torah basically says because we were doing so many bad things over time that eventually God said enough is enough. But why then? Like, why at the moment with Nebuchadnezzar in 586 did it finally come to an end? Right? Why then? Why not during one of these really bad kings' reigns? Why not, why is there no, well, this is it. This is the final straw. Well, there was a final straw, but it doesn't make sense like in that moment. And so there's not a really good answer. I will tell you from the standpoint of, well, this is how we can answer it. Because on one hand, we want there to be a justification for why the punishment finally happens. Because again, the Bible looks at it as cumulatively. You had 500 years of kings, and over that 500 years, they were more, well, maybe not there were more bad people or bad times, but there was enough badness during that time. There was enough evil. There was enough low points that it was doomed. It was going to happen. So that's their assessment of it. And by the way, this is important because, essentially, this isn't about kings of Judah. This is about us. Is the cumulative effect of our time in this world, is it worthy of a long life? Right? Look at the analogy. The kings reign for a long time. We get to be here for a long time if we're good. That's what we want to know. That's what we want. We want that to make sense. And of course it doesn't. The rabbis and the commentators, everybody for the last 2,000 years know that this isn't going to add up, right? Because if we're honest about our behavior and our time in this world, we'll probably say, I think I was better than I was bad. I think I brought more into this world than I took away, I hope. But does it translate into I get to live a long and happy life? Now, of course, one of the answers is that we get to go to heaven, and so it doesn't really matter because we'll get that time in heaven. Well, that was one of the things that Judaism came up with. We feel less comfortable with that answer today than Christians do. The religion that came out of Judaism felt much more comfortable with that than we did. We might have become less comfortable with it because it became such a Christian statement. I don't know. We'll never know for sure why Jews have become less comfortable with that answer. The answer of it's okay because in heaven it'll all be there. I mean, it's a traditional Jewish answer. I mean, if you ask Orthodox Jews to this day, they'll say it doesn't matter. I'm going to be rewarded in heaven. So it is still a legitimate Jewish answer. I just don't think most Jews in the contemporary world subscribe to that theory. And I don't know if it's because of Christianity. I don't know. I'm not 100% sure why most Jews don't feel comfortable with that answer. But generally speaking, you'll hear if you ask a Jew, if you ask even rabbis, most rabbis will tell you in the non-Orthodox world, we're not good because of the reward that comes to us in the hereafter. Okay? So then you get to, why, where's the sense in this? And generally, the only thing I can come up with, which is my answer, is that, again, it's not so much what happens after you die. We don't know. We can't prove it. But we do know what kind of legacy we create. And so that is knowable and that is controllable. And so the legacy that these kings of Judah and Jewish tradition leaves us is much more important than whether these kings lived a long time, because they've all been dead for thousands of years. At the end of the day, whether King Ahaziah or King Yoram lived 50 years or 25 years or 75 years, I mean, they've all been dead for 2,500 years. But the fact that one of them will be known as a good king or a bad king, dang. If I'm King Jehoram and knew that 2,500 years from now people would still be reading whether I was a good king or a bad king, I wouldn't want it to be a bad king. Now, not all of us are going to be kings. Not all of us are going to be kept in the Bible. I don't think, though we're probably going to have a bigger social media footprint than our ancestors did, especially our more recent ancestors. We'll probably have more, there'll be more information about us that lasts and lingers than those who came before, especially in our more modern ancestors. There's probably, I can guarantee you there's more people who know who Kylie Jenner is than know who King Ahaziah was. But what's interesting is that the legacy that we create is going to be something that people can touch and remember, and that we do have control over. That is something that people will we do. It does make sense. And well, Judith just asked, will the information be more accurate? I don't know. Probably it's as accurate as this information was, because remember who kept it. The priests kept this information. So, you got to remember how they're judging people. But it's a pretty simple judgment. Yeah. So again, let me just finish with this. The good kings, we remember them not just because they won, but because their values that they had are our values too. And their values and our values, and God willing, our kids' values and our grandkids' values will be the kind of values where we know what's right and we know what's wrong, and we know we're sickened when things don't go the way they're supposed to go, whether it's in Australia or it's in our own backyard. When stuff goes haywire, that we know it, we call it out, and we make sure that we don't just say, well, that's just the way things are. We just got to put up with shootings. We just got to put up with bad behavior and ugly discourse. We don't. And that's not what we've been fighting for thousands of years for. So, yeah. So let's look at where we left off, because we were talking about some of these we got into some of really bad kings. And part of the problem, as we talked about, was that these bad kings in the north married into our family and married into the dynasty of King David, right? These guys got into our house, right? We let King Ahab marry into our family. So Jehoram, this king right here, is 32 when he becomes king, and he married Ahab's daughter. Now, We're going to hear about her. The fact it didn't mention her yet by name, yeah, don't worry. We're going to hear about her because she's a trip. She's a trip. She's one of the most interesting women in Jewish history. But yeah, this Yoram's a bad dude, and you know, he kills off all his he kills off all his family, and he has one son left, Jehoaz, or also known as Ahaziah, and he dies at 40 after having a horrible bowel disease. Yeah, it was gruesome death, and they don't remember him. They bury him in the city of David in Jerusalem. Ir David, probably actually the area that we go to, that's the excavation area. But he didn't get a royal tomb. So Ahaziah, um, Ahaziah is made king. Jehoahaz and Ahaziah are the same name, by the way. So the fact that he was known as Jehoahaz or Ahaziah is the same. Ahaz and Yah, it's the same. It's the same phrase. 22. So let's read about him, because as much as this is about him, it isn't about him. It's about his mom. So let's read about this wonderful guy. Rosemary,
Okay.
would you take over today?
The
Did you read up on where we were?
Pardon?
Okay, because this is a trippy story. I think you're going to like this. You might remember this a little bit from Kings.
Okay.
But let's read about
The inhabitants of Jerusalem made Ahaziah, his youngest son, king in his stead, because all the older ones had been killed by the troops that penetrated the camp with the Arabs. Ahaziah, son of Jehoram, reigned as king of Judah. Ahaziah was 42 years old when he became king, and he reigned in Jerusalem 1 year. His mother's name was Athaliah, daughter of Omri.
Yeah. So, yeah, let's pause right there for a second. So he's already in his 40s when he becomes king, which means that his dad, was his dad was had been king, taken on king later in life. And now he takes over, and that's his mom. Now it says Atalia is the daughter of Omri. She's not the daughter of Omri. She's the granddaughter of Omri. Her father is Ahab, but she's descendant of the Omri dynasty. She represents, just like you'd say she's Bat David, the daughter of David, she's the daughter of Omri. It's the dynasty that the Omrid, we call it the Omrid dynasty in the north. King Ahab being the most important of those, and reigned for a long time, Ahab. So Ahab's daughter, Atalia, is now the queen of Judah. Remember, Ahab and Jezebel. Yeah, that's Atalia's mom, Jezebel, the original Jezebel. That's her mom. So needless to say, she's not been raised with good values. She is a daughter of the people, and especially Jezebel, who's really vindictive and really trying to kill the prophets of God. Well, now she's the queen in Judah. Now you're going to say, well, she's the queen mother. Yeah, not for long. Ahaziah is king for 1 year. 1 year. That's suspicious. Why?
He too followed the practices of the house of Ahab, for his mother counseled him to do evil. He did what was displeasing to the Lord, like the house of Ahab, for they became his counselors after his father's death, to his ruination. Moreover, he followed their counsel and marched with Jehoram, son of King Ahab of Israel, to battle against King Hazael of Aram at Ramoth Gilead, where the Arameans wounded Joram.
Yeah, and you can see that. And by the way, the fact that in the same line it uses the name Yoram and Yoram, once without the hay and once, that's a scribal error. It's clearly the same person, but sometimes they wrote out his name fully as Yoram and sometimes as Yehoram. Again, it's very confusing because there's two Yehorams. There's Yehoram in Israel and there's Yehoram in Judah. So there's two King Yehorams at the same time. You'd be like, couldn't they come up with more names? Well, yeah, okay, but how many Edwards were there in England? How many, Richards? I mean, they have a name, and they were, Henrys and Richards and Lewises, and they were in France and in England. So yeah, okay, it's not great because it's confusing, but it's not uncommon. So real quick, let me just open up our chart. So just to again show people real quick, we're in this period right here. Elijah is the prophet in the north, as we know. I don't want to show that. There's Jehoram here, Ahaziah. You can see this is all happening here, right here. And then in the north, there's Omri, Ahab. Look how long he's king for, 21 years. His son Ahaziah, who's king for a very short period of time, and then which is different Ahaziah. And then there's Yoram. This is Ahaziah's brother, who's king for 9 years. So that's the Yoram there, and that's the Yoram there. Very confusing. They overlap. So this is the Omrid dynasty. Omri, Ahab, his son Ahaziah, and then Ahab's other son, Yoram. So there was a Yoram on both sides, which means that Yoram here is Ataliah's brother. Well, you already can see something I don't want you to see, but you'll see it real quick. I'm going to get here right now. So they're fighting together. They're both fighting the Arameans. This is the story of Yoram.
He returned to Jezreel to recover from the wounds inflicted on him at Ramah when he fought against King Hazael of Aram. King Azariah, son of Jehoram of Judah, went down to Jezreel to visit Jehoram, son of Ahab, while he was ill. God caused the downfall of Ahaziah because he visited Joram. During his visit, he went out with Jehoram to Jehu, son of Nimshi, whom the Lord had anointed to cut off the house of Ahab. In the course of bringing the house of Ahab to judgment, Jehu came upon the officers of Judah and the nephews of Ahaziah, ministers of Ahaziah, and killed them. He sent in search of Ahaziah, who was caught hiding in Samaria, was brought to Jehu, and put to death. He was given a burial because it was said, "He is the son of Jehoshaphat, who worshipped the Lord wholeheartedly." So the house of Ahaziah could not muster the strength to rule. When Athaliah, Ahaziah's mother, learned that her son was dead, she promptly did away with all who were of the royal stock of the house of Judah. But Yehoshabeah, daughter of the king, spirited away Ahaziah's son Joash from among the princes who were being slain, and put him and his nurse in a bedroom. Yehoshabeah, daughter of King Jehoram, wife of the priest Jehoiada, she was the sister of Ahaziah, kept him hidden from Athaliah so that he was not put to death.
Yep. What you just read is one of the strangest stories in the entire Bible. And it's only given a couple lines because nobody could come to terms with what just happened in the house of Judah.
This is like the Star Wars sequel where they kill off all the young Jedis.
Yes, the young Jedi's, the purge, the night of whatever they called it when they killed all the
Padawans or whatever.
Jedi's. Yes, it's like Game of Thrones. It's like every horrific thing you can imagine. This queen went on a rampage and killed everybody who had royal Davidic line, including her own family. She was going to kill her grandson. She was going to kill everyone in her family. I mean, even the people that were related to her. Again, the people who were not related to her, a Davidic line, the rest of Jehoshaphat's family, the rest of all the, there was a purge of Davidic people. This is insane. This is honestly one of the worst characters in Jewish history. Now, the fact that she's also one of the few queens in Jewish history is somewhat problematic and does not lead to a quest to find more queens in Jewish history. One of the few. She's the only one that rules during the time of David. You're absolutely right. She's the only one who rules during the time of David. And by the way, because I've said that, and because of the time of year that we're in, you're asking a question, what is he talking about? What is this guy possibly talking about that he just said, one of the few queens in Jewish history? Well, well, there must be something that he's talking about here if he said queens in Jewish history. We are 100% correct in saying that you and I know that there were not many times when we had kings in Jewish history. Right? Right? I mean, that's the fact. We don't have a lot of kings in Jewish history. But we do have some. We do have some, right? When do we have kings in Jewish history? Somebody? Kings, queens, rulers. I say kings because normally they're kings. When else do we have kings, folks?
Herod.
Yeah, but even before Herod. Help me out. Come on. Well, you're close, Rosemary. Before Herod.
Before Herod. The Maccabees.
Correct. So, what's interesting is that, and I will put it up for you to see. This is the list of kings who rule in what we call the Hasmonean dynasty, or the Maccabees. Here's Judah. He never really becomes ruler because he died in 160. But his brother Simon becomes high priest. High priest is not king, but he's in charge of Jerusalem. But his son, John Hyrcanus, Simon's son, John Hyrcanus, does call himself king. He calls himself high priest and king. How do we know? Because he had coins made with his name on it and says king. He had a son, Judah Aristobulus, Yehudah, named after his uncle. Well, because John's uncle, right, was Judah. And these names, Judah, they just don't go away. Because they're John, Judah, Jonathan. They keep having names like that. So one of them, Judah, becomes king. He's king for a year, and then his brother becomes king, Alexander Jannaeus, otherwise known as Jonathan. Jonathan becomes king for a long time. By the way, there's a reason why this guy's king for 1 year. Because his brother killed him. Alexander Jannaeus is king for, you can see, 27 years. It's a long time. And he is most definitely king. We have coins with his name on it too. He marries a woman named Salome. Shlomit. Salome. Yeah, those Salomes that later on are around John the Baptist. That's not the one. There's another one later on that is alive during Herod the Great's time. The women are all named Shlomit or Miriam, Mary or Salome, Shlomit. The guys are all named Alexander, Judah, and Judah usually is, again, the Greek version of that is Aristobulus, Antigonus. They have the same names. Johns are known as Hyrcanus. The Alexanders are Jonathans. So they have a Hebrew name and a Greek name. Anyways, Alexander was married to a woman named Shlomit. The reason that she's in bold is she was queen for 9 years. She was queen until her son, Hyrcanus, took over. And then, of course, you can see that Hyrcanus and Aristobulus were brothers. That's confusing. Hyrcanus was king for a little bit, and then Aristobulus was king, and then, they fought each other too. This was pretty Game of Thrones too, the way the Maccabees end up becoming not really good people. These kings start fighting amongst themselves. But nothing, and I say nothing, is like the craziness that happens during this woman, Atalia. Nothing like this. Because when else do you have someone who is ready to kill her own family, her own kids? Well, yeah, you get that with King Herod. But even the Maccabees in their most depraved time when they're killing brothers, rival brothers, which is horrible, they don't go on rampages where they kill their kids. Herod does. He kills his own sons. But Atalia is one of those people. Now, of course, the traditional answer is, well, she's from a horrible family. Her mother's Jezebel. Of course she's going to do stuff like this because she's just like, she's from the most evil people. But this happens. This is what happens. So there is a Jewish queen during the Davidic dynasty. She is queen, by the way. Well, let's read what happens. It's not a very long story, by the way. It's a very interesting story. This is a story I definitely would like to read more about. The whole version of this story would be fascinating. But yeah, this is a queen, and I'll show you how long she was queen for. So basically, again, when her son Ahaziah dies with her brother, right? He's fighting with Atalia's brother, Yoram. This is chaos. And by the way, you already knew that their dynasty is about to come to an end because that guy Yehu, who killed everybody in the north, all the royal family there, yeah, he becomes king. By the way, he doesn't wind up being such a good king either in the north, but at least he does away with this horrible Omrid dynasty. But yeah, this is chaos times. This is just horrible. So this woman, Yehosheba, is very, very courageous because she keeps this young child, Joash, alive. Yeah. It's an amazing story. So she takes care of him. Now it does say that she is married to the priest, Yehoiada, which makes sense because she's part of the inner circle of religious people that are keeping the faith. While everything's going sideways, and you have a woman who's queen, who's worshiping Baal, literally worshiping Baal, you've got this going on. This is the last Jedi, right? This is the keeping the Jedi alive. All right. So
He
what
stayed
happens?
with them for 6 years, hidden in the house of God, while Athaliah reigned over the land.
Yeah, 6 years. She was queen for 6 years. Right? Her son wasn't king for more than a year. 6 years she was in charge. So I was going to show you on the chart, but there you go. 6 years. There's your answer. How long did this go on for? 6 years. And so this child is hidden from her for 6 years. That's crazy. I mean, that kid literally may not have seen the light of day for 6 years, is being hidden in the temple. He's being hidden by the priests. Did he get to go out? Did he get sunlight? Did they keep him under an assumed name and let him walk around like he was a priest kid and they left him alone? Who knows? But it's an amazing story. It's a crazy story. Just imagine that. This kid is the prince. This is like the man in the iron mask. Like any kind of story you can imagine. Like what's going on here? Yeah, it's a story. We don't have a lot of it. Don't have many lines, but it's there. Here's what happens.
In the 7th year, Jehoiada took courage and brought the chiefs of the hundreds, Azariah son of Jehoram, Ishmael son of Jehohanan, Azariah son of Obed, Maaseiah son of Adiah, and Elishaphat son of Zikri into a compact with him. They went through Judah and assembled the Levites from all the towns.
Wait, 1 second. Sorry, Rosemary. So he gets military guys around him, the priest, right? You can imagine what's going to happen. So he gets the military people he needs, and this is what he does.
They went through Judah and assembled the Levites from all the towns of Judah and the chiefs of the clans of Israel. They came to Jerusalem, and the entire assembly made a covenant with the king in the house of God. He said to them, "The son of the king shall be king, according to the promise the Lord made concerning the sons of David. This is what you must do. 1/3 of you, priests and Levites who are on duty for the week, shall be gatekeepers at the thresholds. Another third shall be stationed in the royal palace, and the other third at the foundation gate. All the people shall be in the courts of the house of the Lord. Let no one enter the house of the Lord except the priests and the ministering Levites. They may enter because they are sanctified, but all the people shall obey the prescription of the Lord. The Levites shall surround the king on every side, every man with his weapons at the ready, and whoever enters the house shall be killed. Stay close to the king in his comings and goings." The Levites and all Judah did just as Jehoiada the priest ordered. Each took his men, those who were on duty that week and those who were off duty that week, for Jehoiada the priest had not dismissed the divisions. Jehoiada the priest gave the chiefs of the 100 King David's spears and shields and quivers that were kept in the house of God. He stationed the entire force, each man with his weapons at the ready, from the south end of the house to the north end of the house, at the altar and the house, to guard the king on every side.
So, not a lot of details on how they kept the kid alive, but a whole lot of details about this. What do we call this? This is a coup.
This is the coup, yeah.
This is the details of the coup. And the coup is being led by the priests. And the way that they make sure that they can do this effectively is they double up on the shift. Because what happens is when a new shift of priests comes into Jerusalem, remember, they're working in 12 shifts. Each shift is a different, remember, there's so many Kohanim by this point that they have to create shifts for the families. Work a couple weeks at a time, get everybody in. This isn't even by the time, again, the second temple, when they definitely had even more priests. But he keeps the shift that was supposed to be dismissed on. He doesn't let them leave, so there's more priests than normal. Now, the queen has her own force. She has her own army. She has her own soldiers. So they're prepared for battle by getting more people together. And remember, if this woman's queen for 6 years already, she's been able to get her hands on the levers of power right? And she's been able to get her own troops. So this is this is going to be a bloody thing, and it's going down in the temple. That's where it is. This is the house of God. The house of God. This is the temple in Jerusalem.
Then they brought out the king's son and placed upon him the crown and the insignia. They proclaimed him king, and Jehoiada and his sons anointed him and shouted, "Long live the king!" When Athaliah heard the shouting of the people and the guards and the acclamation of the king, she came out to the people, to the house of the Lord. She looked about and saw the king standing by his pillar at the entrance, the chiefs with their trumpets beside the king, and all the people of the land rejoicing and blowing trumpets, and the singers with musical instruments leading the hymns. Athaliah rent her garments and cried out, "Treason! Treason!"
Kasher. Kasher. That's what she says. Not kosher. Kasher. This is treason. You've you've started a coup against me. So she could hear this going on and comes out to see what's happening.
Then the priest Jehoiada ordered out the army officers, the chiefs of hundreds, and said to them, "Take her out between the ranks, and if anyone follows her, put him to the sword." For the priest thought, "Let her not be put to death in the house of the Lord." They cleared a passage for her, and she came to the entrance of the horse gate to the royal palace. There she was put to death.
Yeah, so they didn't kill her in the temple. They took her out. And they said, look, if anyone joins her, you know, they're gonna be killed too. It doesn't look like anyone joined her. So um this is a coup led by the priests. And when you create a situation where for 6 years, this King Joash, this crown prince, if you will, he's raised by the priests. This is a kid that they've got. I mean, look, they've been taking care of him. They saved his life, and now they've made him king. So you can imagine, this king is going to start off on the right foot. So Queen Natalia goes down in defeat, in humiliation.
Then Jehoiada solemnized a covenant between himself and the people and the king, that they should be the people of the Lord. All the people then went to the temple of Baal. They tore it down and smashed its altars and images to bits, and they slew Matan, the priest of Baal, in front of the altars.
Okay, folks, they had a temple of Baal in Jerusalem, right there. This is what Queen Natalia had done. It's not like they had to go outside of Jerusalem to find the temples of Baal. There's one right in Jerusalem. I mean, this is just absolutely horrific. This is a guy, King Joash, is coming to rule at a time when this is literally going on in the front of the temple. Now, how old is Joash when this happens? How old is he? Hello? Roughly
Well, she was what, queen 10 years?
6 years.
6 years. So he's 6 or so. Six,
Yeah,
eight,
he's 7.
7.
7 years old. This kid's 7 years old. So he was not, he's not he's not old enough to be king. I mean, come on. He's not old enough, which means the priests are in charge. Understand that at this moment, right now, I'm talking about King Joash as king. And again, sometimes his name is written out Yehoash with the hey as well, right? As he's king right now, this is the irony. You have a queen who's absolutely horrible. Oh no, we just lost connection. The Zoom just went off.
Hmm.
Hold on one
I
second.
can hear you.
You can still hear me? Oh, some
Yeah.
reason it said, oh,
Yeah,
you know
I can
why?
hear you
'Cause
fine.
yeah, but that's weird. Trust me, the Zoom is now rebooting. So I don't know why. Okay. King Joash is now king for uh after Atalia, the worst queen, the worst ruler. And what's interesting is that now the priests are at a higher time, a higher level than they've ever been, ever since King David. The priests have never had this much power. So literally, they've gone from a time of yeah. See, it's. I have to bring it back up. They've gone from a point in time where they are not in charge at all. Literally, they're dealing with a queen who's not even worshiping God anymore. To they've gone to a time when they're now the ones who are making who are making all the calls. This is amazing. This is literally a from the worst possible situation to the best possible situation overnight. Literally, they're completely disenfranchised. They don't have their ruler, their queen, is having people worship Baal, is having sacrifices to Baal. We don't even know what's really going on in the temple at this point. Are sacrifices to Baal going on in the temple courtyard? We don't know. And yet now they're in charge. Now they control the king. So you can see how things happen. You can see that, yeah, the clergy took over and they're now the ones calling the shot. Yeah. Well, they yeah. No, they made sure they had the military. They made sure they had the military, right? He made sure he had the Jehoiada made sure he had the military support. Smart thing to do. And yeah, this is a guy who is so powerful now that he's put the priests. We're still on Facebook, by the way. We didn't go off Facebook. We just went off of the ability to share off the screen, which I'm now reestablished. Yeah. So again, what's my point about this all is like things change in a moment. Things go from the worst possible situation for the people to all of a sudden having more power than they've ever had before. It happens. You're like literally like overnight, they've gone from completely disenfranchised to being in charge. So, so yeah, and now we have this great king, Joash, and he's put the priests in charge. I mean, he's not put the priests in charge. The priests are, Jehoiada is essentially the de facto king right now. Um, so it seems like they got their guy. Remember what I said at the beginning. Remember what we said at the beginning. But things are going good for the priests right now. So what do?
Jehoiada put the officers of the house of the Lord in the charge of Levite priests whom David had assigned over the house of the Lord to offer up burnt offerings, as is prescribed in the teaching of Moses, accompanied by joyful song, as ordained by David.
Going back to tradition, going back to tradition.
He stationed the gatekeepers at the gates of the house of the Lord to prevent the entry of anyone unclean for any reason. He took the chiefs of hundreds, the nobles, and the rulers of the people, and all the people of the land, and they escorted the king down from the house of the Lord into the royal palace by the upper gate and seated the king on the royal throne.
Wow, what a wonderful day.
All the people of the land rejoiced, and the city was quiet. As for Athaliah, she had been put to the sword.
Yeah, she was killed. They killed her. Pretty clear. They didn't put her in jail. They didn't send her away. They didn't send her back to Israel. They didn't send her back up north to Phoenicia, where her family came from Tyre. No, no, they retired her. They sent her back to be dead. Yeah. And here's what it says. Here's the math done for you.
Jehoash was 7 years old when he became king, and he reigned in Jerusalem 40 years. His mother's name was Ziviah of Beersheba. All the days of the priest Jehoiada, Jehoash did what was pleasing to the Lord.
All right, so that's a little bit about Jehoash. Now, this is not the way I tell a story. I wouldn't tell people right away. Well, you do the math. They did the math for us. He's 7 years old when he becomes king. Come on. Guy's not in control when he's first king, clear. His mother, Zivia. Right? Zivia. All right. It's good to know. A little detail. I wouldn't have told this part. He's king for 40 years, which means he's only 47 when he dies. That's not good. That's not a good thing. They've already kind of told you, they've already given away something to you, which is this guy doesn't live a full life. He reigned for 40 years. No, it's like Supreme Court, man. You don't retire from being king. This is not retirement. Well, he was retired. It was a forced retirement. You're going to see how they forced the retirement. Yeah, it's not a good thing. They kind of gave that away. They telegraphed, yeah, it's not a good, like, again, look, not the way I tell the story. Give it away at the beginning. It's hard to build up for the drama of that when you've given it away. It also kind of gave away something to you too, because they're not dumb. I mean, they know, and you're not dumb. When you tell somebody all the days of the priest Jehoiada, Joash did what was good, that kind of implies that when he's no longer there, it's not good. So they kind of give away that part too, which is he had a really good mentor. He had a really good de facto guy that was on top making the call and the shots. And again, to use the Three Musketeer references, this is the Cardinal Richelieu. This is for those people that like Man in the Iron Mask stuff. That's what's going on here. This guy is really good, but not good for as long as his mentor was around, his religious mentor, but does not do well later.
Jehoiada took 2 wives for him, by whom he had sons and daughters. Afterward, Joash decided to renovate the house of the Lord.
Well, look what this guy just did. He picked his wives for him. 2 wives, by the way. You're not going to get out of control. You're going to have 2 wives. You have 2 wives. Have sons and daughters with those wives. You're not going to have 10 wives. You have 2 wives. And he chooses them. The priest mentor chooses them. And then, coincidentally, I'm going to renovate the house of the Lord for the priests. I'm going to give the priests a lot of help. Not surprising. So what he does is very helpful to the priests. We're doing a building project.
He assembled the priests and the Levites and charged them as follows. Go out to the towns of Judah and collect money from all Israel for the annual repair of the house of your God. Do it quickly. But the Levites did not act quickly.
Which is a big knock on the Levites, by the way. The Kohanim just bad. They just took
This
it.
is the Kohanim bagging on
Those
the Levites.
Levites are so lazy. They didn't do what they were supposed to do. Yeah. Well, oh, yeah, it's not something that people are going to like doing, but they kind of know that. We know that. You're right. We know it. But the Levites didn't do it quick. And the longer they drag it out, it's not going to make it easier. And so the whole system is like, well, what, how are we going to do this? By the way, we're supposed to have been doing this all along. I mean, it says so right here.
The king summoned Jehoiada the chief and said to him, why have you not seen to it that the Levites brought the tax imposed by Moses, the servant of the Lord, and the congregation of Israel from Judah and Jerusalem to the tent of the pact? For the children of the wicked Athaliah had violated the house of God and had even used the sacred things of the house of the Lord for the Baals.
Yeah. So if the Baal thing wasn't in the temple, they were using temple things for the Baals. Okay. So this was really bad. This was really, really bad. What's interesting is it does seem like Joash is more into this than his own mentor is, right? So again, he's younger, he's got more energy, but he's literally saying to his mentor, hey, look, I'm doing what you should be doing. Get the Levites to do their job. And they're not doing it. And look, the judgment here is most definitely in favor of what Joash is doing, which is trying to get them to do their job. They're supposed to have been doing it the whole time. For hundreds of years, they're supposed to be collecting this tax. They're not collecting the tax. This is for the temple. This is what everyone is supposed to be doing all the time. That means the Bible just admitted that it hadn't been done. It wasn't being done. And not only that, oh my God, it's not just that we've been not doing what we're supposed to be doing. We're worshiping Baals. We're doing stuff for Baal. So all the money that we've been spending, whatever it is, some of it's not even been going to God. It's been going to Baal. So terrible, terrible stuff. This is not only historically bad, it's just gotten worse during this time of Queen Athaliah. So here's the famous scene. This is in Kings 2. We read this.
The king ordered that a chest be made and placed on the outside of the gate of the house of the Lord. A proclamation was issued in Judah and Jerusalem to bring the tax imposed on Israel in the wilderness by Moses, the servant of God. All the officers and all the people gladly brought it and threw it into the chest till it was full. Whenever the chest was brought to the royal officers by the Levites, and they saw that it contained much money, the royal scribe and the agent of the chief priest came and emptied out the chest and carried it back to its place. They did this day by day, and much money was collected. The king and Jehoiada delivered the money to those who oversaw the tasks connected with the work of the house of the Lord. They hired masons and carpenters to renovate the house of the Lord, as well as craftsmen in iron and bronze to repair the house of the Lord.
It's all going good.
The overseers did their work. Under them, the work went well, and they restored the house of God to its original form and repaired it. When they had finished, they brought the money that was left over to the king and Jehoiada. It was made into utensils for the house of the Lord, service vessels, buckets and ladles, golden and silver vessels. Burnt offerings were offered up regularly in the house of the Lord all the days of Jehoiada. Jehoiada reached a ripe old age and died. He was 130 years old at his death.
That's not normal.
No.
120. You're not supposed to go past 120. This guy went to 130. I mean, that's huge. That's like normal. You couldn't get past 120. Normal. Like that's superhuman. So he lived a really long time, which means like he was literally king. I mean, a priest during the king from all the way back, almost all the way back to the time of King Solomon. So this guy is a king, I mean, is a priest through so many kings. Again, just to kind of show you how long that would have been, if he lives through King Joash's time, which is about 800, you go all the way back. Place where these guys are buried? Not yet, but we are close. We're close. We're close. If people live here, if when this area is destroyed, then people come back and just look. The problem with the city of David, we talked about this before. You were there. You were there. You were there. The problem is the Arab village of Silwan was built right over it. And so it was a very highly political issue that Israel's development of Silwan, look, for a long time, Israel was like, okay, well, they took the houses and they repaid the people, gave them money to move, and they tried to. Okay, I'm going to just tell you the real story, and this is not political, and this is really stripped of all the politics. The area where the city of David is, where they're excavating right now, like massive excavations, where we were at, where you can go to this. We always go to the city of David now. Now that it's been excavated, we didn't take groups there until a couple of years because there wasn't enough to see. About 10 years ago, there's enough to see, and it's amazing. Take people through, we go underneath, walk around, come around, they're excavating like crazy. One of the reasons why they're excavating like crazy is because Israel is worried that at some point there's going to be they're going to come down on Israel and say, you cannot excavate in East Jerusalem. It's technically East Jerusalem. Let me make it clear, Israel has annexed that area. As far as Israel is concerned, it's always going to be part of Israel. It will always be part of Israel. But the rest of the world, with the exception of a few countries, doesn't recognize it. So Israel is in a mad dash to do as much excavation there as possible. Here's the real story, too, which people don't want to talk about, but I'm going to tell you. The homes in Silwan that were built above this are maybe 100 years old. It's not like people have lived there for thousands of years. The good news about, it's all weird, but the bigger problem, of course, is that any destruction of a home where people, or any leveling of a home above this area is considered to be, for some people, a violation of people's rights. Understand, I get it, but I also want to tell you, these are not people whose families lived there for thousands of years. These homes were not there. In 1850, these homes were not there. How do we know? Because people painted it. There's photographs from the early 1900s. These homes were not there. The good thing about that means that there's not a lot of levels of occupation, and by occupation I mean archaeological occupation. There's not a lot of levels that need to be sifted through in order to get to the history. They built on top of stuff that had been ruined for a long time. This is not part of the old city. This is across the hill from the old city. So there was not constant occupation like there was inside the old city. Ir David, the city of David, is outside of where the wall is today. The wall that was built by the Turks. So this area is very easily excavated compared to other places. So that's not politically correct. It's not, I don't care. It's not politically correct. It's just a fact. I'm not trying to give politics here. So Israel is excavating in a mad dash to try to get through this. Israel probably should have cleared out the homes in a more effective way and just said, we're just leveling this whole area. They didn't. And so they're doing it piece by piece. They're doing it bit by bit. These are not, I want to also make it clear, it's not like Israel's moving in Jewish residents to live in this area. Israel is not. They are excavating the area, and they're excavating it because this is 3,000-year-old Jewish history. Some archaeologists believe if we if we continue to excavate in the area, we will find these tombs. We will find this area where these kings were buried. We believe we're close. Um, um, Arguably, it's the most important. It's the biggest. It's definitely the biggest focus of archaeology in Israel, the city of David, and it is. Yeah, it's definitely something that Israel is putting a lot of effort into. Um, it's not. We don't know what we're going to find. I mean, we don't know for sure what we're going to find. Um, it's not like we know for sure that we're going to find, where King Joash and Yoram, where these people are buried. We don't know. We don't know that for sure, but we are very close. Okay, so yeah, there's a mad dash to do this. Anyways, back to Yehoiada. He is a priest. He dies around here. He was then priest all the way back through to King Asa, and again, maybe even back here to Rehoboam. So this is a guy who's seen a lot. He's seen a lot of good kings and bad kings, and now he's here. And now you can see already that Joash doesn't turn out so good. All right. Any questions, comments? Let's get back to Joash. So he's 130 when he dies, which again puts him back all the way back to the 900s.
Makes me feel young.
Yeah, yeah. It's midlife crisis.
Right.
70. All right.
They buried him in the city of David together with the kings because he had done good in Israel and on behalf of God and his house.
So even though he's a priest, he's buried with the kings. Maybe one day we'll find Yehoiada's tomb.
Maybe we'll find the Temple of Baal.
I hope not. They destroyed it. Anyways.
Well, there should be something left of it,
I
though.
know. Maybe there is. Maybe
right?
there is. Believe me, we don't know what we'll find. Maybe we will.
Yeah.
Maybe we will. But I hope we continue to excavate in that area. And again, I said it because obviously, if people had continuously lived in that area for generations and generations, and they had like long claims to it, I'd feel more guilty about it. I still think you have to excavate there. But I mean, I get it. I mean, I get it. Like this, though, really bugs me when people say that Israel destroyed Silwan. If you look at what Silwan looked like, by the way, too, you can still see it. Actually, you can see it from the City of David excavations. You can look at the rest of Silwan. It's not beautiful. It's not. It's not well kept. Let's put it that way. Again, I'm not saying any of this is justification for destroying people's homes, but in all seriousness, it's not. It's not like people. Again, there's things that you hear about where people cultivated an area for it's been in the family for generations and generations. It's not one of those situations. I don't know what to. I don't want to dwell on it, other than again just to tell you this is not one of those things where you hear that Jews have uprooted Palestinians from their territory and whatever. This is not one of those situations. I will tell you that again. I mean, who's to judge that someone's home looks like trash? But it's not. These are not. This is not an area where people can't leave and live in a better situation. Again, I know people are going to say that doesn't sound politically correct, but I'm just stating a fact that this is not. These are not areas where people are going to go. It would be terrible if this is excavated and this all goes away. Again, I mean, I get it. If it was my home, I wouldn't want to lose it, but there has to be a justification of like what is. I was going to show you a picture of what Silwan looks like. Yeah, yeah. I mean, again, I don't want people to say, who are you to judge what people look like? But when you see the way well, I'm going to just show it to you, just a picture, so you can see it. This is what um, Silwan looks like. This is Silwan. Well, that's a little bit more of what Silwan looks like. So, um, yeah, this. Yeah. So this is what is being excavated for the city of David. Again, I know, it's not. I'm not the one to judge it, but also again, that's the so. So Yehoiada dies and he gets buried. This is what happens. You can already tell.
But after the death of Jehoiada, the officers of Judah came, bowing low to the king, and the king listened to them. They forsook the house of the Lord God of their fathers to serve the sacred posts and idols, and there was wrath upon Judah and Jerusalem because of this guilt of theirs. The Lord sent prophets among them to bring them back to him. They admonished them, but they would not pay heed. Then the Spirit of God enveloped Zechariah, son of Jehoiada, the priest. He stood above the people and said to them, Thus said God said, Why do you transgress the commandments of the Lord when you cannot succeed? Since you have forsaken the Lord, he has forsaken you.
Yeah. So Zechariah gets into the act. This is not the prophet Zechariah that's mentioned later on. A different Zechariah that's mentioned as one of the last prophets. But this is Zechariah, the son of Jehoiada. Yeah, that guy, the one that just died. Well, his son is going on a prophetic rampage and does what prophets say. Ko Amar. This is what God said. Ko Amar. Why are you transgressing? Right? You're worshiping Baal. You went back to Baal.
They conspired against him and pelted him with stones in the court of the house of the Lord by order of the king. King Joash disregarded the loyalty that his father Jehoiada had shown to him and killed his son. As he was dying, he said, May the Lord see and requite it.
Yeah, they killed him. They killed the prophet. This is not good. This is a bad king. This is a king who should have known better. It's tragic. It's a tragic end to this guy. Wow. Well, you already know. He died at 47. Not good. And of course, he's, according to tradition, according to the way, obviously, it's pretty easy to see, he deserved it. Zechariah asked for God to hold him accountable.
At the turn of the year, the army of Aram marched against him. They invaded Judah and Jerusalem and wiped out all the officers of the people from among the people and sent all the booty they took to the king of Damascus. The invading army of Aram had come with but a few men, but the Lord delivered a very large army into their hands because they had forsaken the Lord God of their fathers. They inflicted punishments on Joash.
Yep. And this is, again, the rationalization. Joash deserved what had happened because of what he did. The Arameans defeat us, the Syrians, right? The Syrians come in and they they beat us, and they shouldn't have. They had a smaller army, but they were able to overcome us. This is not good. So again, this is Aram. This is the people coming out of Damascus. Uh, yeah, not good. Guess what? People don't like that. People don't like it.
When they withdrew, having left him with many wounds, his courtiers plotted against him because of the murder of the sons of Jehoiada the priests, and they killed him in bed. He died and was buried in the city of David. He was not buried in the tombs of the kings.
Yeah, so maybe we'll find his tomb outside of the royal tomb area. Yep. He was also buried in the city of David, but not in. Now, again, it's interesting. Whenever we talk about Ir David, are they talking about Jerusalem? Are they talking about that? Or are they talking about specifically the area that King David built? Um, you know, uh, but it's called Ir David. That's what they call it, Ir David, right there. So, yeah, he was murdered in a coup. In a coup. So, not good end. Not a good end to this guy. And he started out very promising as a kid, as a young kid, and it doesn't end that way. Not a nice thing. But again, according to this, he was, was he literally wounded by the Arameans? Probably not, but politically wounded. He was wounded in the sense that he lost power and credibility. And so, as far as the priests are concerned, he deserved it. He killed Jehoiada's son, Zechariah. Zechariah was a prophet, but he was also a priest. We don't know exactly why he wasn't the high priest, why he wasn't the priest in charge, but it doesn't really matter. He deserved it. So it was a coup. Here is the coup.
These were the men who conspired against him: Zabad, son of Shimeah, the Ammonitess, and Jehozabad, son of Shimri, the Moabitess. As to his sons and the many pronouncements against him and his rebuilding of the house of God, they are recorded in the story in the book of the Kings. His son, Amaziah, succeeded him as king.
Yeah, that's it. It's just, you want to read more about it, go to the books of the Kings. Is not much in the book of Kings. So Amaziah is king after him. Notice, by the way, that of the people that are conspiring against him, you got some Ammonite and Moabite hybrid children. they're they're not all Judean, is what they're telling us. It's almost as if they're saying, yeah, these guys they have no fear about killing a Judean dynasty person who's a descendant of King David, because they're Ammonite and Moabite. Now, again, David was part Moabite as well, but it shows you that, again, Ruth was a Moabitess, right? So it does tell us that they are some people in the court that are mixed. They're mixed. Okay, interesting. So Amaziah is now king. He's the king now. What do we know about him?
Amaziah was 25 years old when he became king, and he reigned 29 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Jehoadan of Jerusalem.
Well, we can also do the math here, and that means that this guy lives to be 54. Not a very long time. Mm, right? A little bit more than his dad, but not that much more. Uh, but he also doesn't become king when he's 7, right? So here's what the judgment on him was.
He did what was pleasing to the Lord, but not with a whole heart. Once he had the kingdom firmly under control, he executed the courtiers who had assassinated his father, the king.
Oh, well, that's interesting. Now, he doesn't get to become king unless these guys do what they did. But, and he's a young guy when he becomes king. He's in his 20s when he becomes king. But he knows, I don't trust these people, even though they're the ones that made him king. Look, if they can kill one king, they can kill another king. So they're like, get rid of these guys. So he kills the people that were part of his coup. By the way, very typical in dynasties, very typical when people are dealing with dictatorships. There's a coup, and one of the first things that happens, if there's more than one person involved in the coup, they start fighting amongst themselves. Do you remember that coup with the Julius Caesar business? Mark Antony, Augustus, right? You remember that story? They all become king, co-regents. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. They start killing each other, right? You can't you can't trust the people that you even plotted with. The triumvirate does not last for very long. No, and I can't remember how long the triumvirate lasted for, but uh, the triumvirate under the one that took over after Julius Caesar was it lasted um yeah, it lasted. And by the way, no one ever remembers the other guy. There was the other guy. Actually, that wasn't even the first triumvirate. The first triumvirate was Caesar, Crassus, and Pompey, which of course Caesar took the reins there. But when Caesar, after Caesar died, the second triumvirate was the one of Mark Antony, and the guy that everyone forgets is Lepidus. That lasts for Mark Antony gets killed by the. I think it lasted for a year. Yeah, it lasted for a year, and then they start killing each other. And Anthony and Augustus split the empire, and yeah, it lasted fully for 13 years. That's when the last two guys, Anthony and Cleopatra, remember them, and fought with Augustus. That ended in 30, and then Augustus is by himself. So yeah, it doesn't last very long. Um, yeah, you got to get rid of the people who are a threat to your power. So those might be your people who put you in power. But Amaziah is in charge. What does he do?
But he did not put their children to death, for he acted in accordance with what is written in the teaching in the book of Moses, where the Lord commanded, "Parents shall not die for children, nor shall children die for parents, but every person shall die only for his own crime."
Well, that's nice. He didn't kill their families, which is Torah. You're not supposed to kill the kids. What tells us is that every time there were coups before that, they'd kill the kids. So there's a little bit of, well, what do you tell us here? Well, that there was a whole bunch of coups and a whole bunch of other people got murdered because their families would get murdered too. Okay. All right. No, he didn't do that.
Amaziah assembled the men of Judah, and he put all the men of Judah and Benjamin under officers of thousands and officers of hundreds by clans. He mustered them from the age of 20 upward and found them to be 300,000 picked men fit for service, able to bear spear and shield.
Wow. That's a lot.
He hired 100,000 warriors from Israel for 100 talents of silver. Then a man of God came to him and said, "O king, do not let the army of Israel go with you, for the Lord is not with Israel, all these Ephraimites. But go by yourself into it. Take courage for battle, else God will make you fall before the enemy. For in God there is power to help one or to make one fall."
Nice. Well, yeah, everybody gets what happened. He's putting together his army because, again, he's got to go to war. He's got to get back at the Arameans. He's got to get back on the people that have been troubling us. So he puts together an army. Wow. And included in that is 100,000 warriors from Israel, from the northern kingdom. But as he's warned by a prophet, those aren't the kind of people you want in your army. Get them out. Get them out. Yeah, it's a little too late. It's a little too late. You hired him, right? But his point is right. You made a mistake. You should never have gone into, never go get a deal going with these people, even though they're related to us.
Amaziah said to the man of God, "And what am I to do about the 100 talents I gave for the Israelite force?" The man of God replied, "The Lord has the means to give you much more than that." So Amaziah detached the force that came to him from Ephraim, ordering them to go back to their place. They were greatly enraged against Judah and returned to their place in a rage.
Yep. So he already made a deal with them. He paid them. He says to the prophet, "I've already paid these guys." And the guy said, "Don't worry about it. You'll do fine. God will make sure you're covered. You'll go to battle. You'll come back with much more than that." Well, okay, fine. There's still a problem. He hired these people and now he's humiliated them. It just said they went back in a rage. Well, you know enough about stories. That's going to be important.
Amaziah took courage, and leading his army, he marched to the valley of Salt. He slew 10,000 men of Seir, another 10,000 the men of Judah captured alive, and brought to the top of Selah. They threw them down from the top of Selah, and every one of them was burst open.
Wow, that's a beautiful scene. That's the war that he first fights with the people of Edom. As he goes across the Jordan River, he goes into Edom and he kills these people, kills the Edomites.
The men of the force that Amaziah had sent back, so they would not go with him into battle, made forays against the towns of Judah from Samaria to Beth Horon. They slew 3,000 of them and took much booty.
Oh no. So those Ephraimites that he had hired, they didn't like being sent home. And so they went into Judah and they raided it. And they killed 3,000 people and they stole lots of stuff. So, yeah, if he had not gone in to deal with them in the first place, maybe that wouldn't have happened. But the prophet was not wrong in saying that these are bad people. How do we know they're bad people? Because they just did that. These are horrible people. These are our cousins. These are Ephraimites. These are descendants of Joseph. They're our cousins, our brothers, if you will. And they just did a horrible thing. They killed people in Judah just because they were humiliated. That's what they decided to do.
After Amaziah returned from defeating Edomites, he had the gods of the men of Seir brought and installed them as his gods. He prostrated himself before them, and to them he made sacrifice. The Lord was enraged at Amaziah and sent a prophet to him who said to him, "Why are you worshiping the gods of a people who could not save their people from you?"
It's bad enough. We got people worshiping Baal. You went to Edom, the first place you went to war with, because remember, Edom was oftentimes under our control in Judah. I don't mean, you know, Aram was fighting normally with the north, with the northern kingdom, but sometimes with us. But Edom was always fighting with us. There were, sometimes they were in charge, sometimes we were in charge. I mean, they were not in charge of us ever, but sometimes they were a vassal state to us. And now he's like, you went there, you defeated them, and now you came back with their gods. Are you nuts? You can see the logic, which is, hey, if they defeat you, I can understand you worshiping their gods, but you defeated them. Are you crazy?
As he spoke to him, Amaziah said to him, "Have we appointed you a counselor to the king? Stop, or else you will be killed." The prophet stopped, saying, "I see God has counseled that you be destroyed, since you act this way and disregard my counsel."
Wow. Okay. I can see that you're going to die.
Then King Amaziah of Judah took counsel and sent this message to Joash, son of Jehoahaz, king of Jehu, king of Israel: "Come, let us confront each other."
So, a little confusing that Jehu, who was the king of the north, right, the one who took out over after destroying Ahab's family, that he has sons, and this Jehu dynasty, Jehoahaz, Joash, they got the same names. They got the same names that we did. It's like, can't they get more names? No, they got these names. And these are kings. Jehoahaz was king for about 15 years. The other Jehoash is king just a little bit after our king Joash. Joash is the king during the time of Amaziah. He's his ruler, his contemporary in the north. But he says to him, let's go to battle.
King Joash of Israel sent back this message to King Amaziah of Judah: "The thistle in Lebanon sent this message to the cedar in Lebanon: 'Give your daughter to my son in marriage.' But a wild beast in Lebanon passed by and trampled the thistle. You boast that you have defeated the Edomites, and you are ambitious to get more glory. Now stay at home, lest, provoking disaster, you fall, dragging Judah down with you."
Yeah, so he basically tells him, get out of my face. You're nothing. I'm not even gonna, I'm not even gonna respect you enough to answer you in a legitimate way. Just stop bugging me. You're nothing. You're literally a thistle compared to a tree. You're a one of those like one of those like just kind of pieces of bush. And I'm a tree. Not a tree. I'm a cedar of Lebanon. So you think you're a big shot because you defeated the Edomites? Come on, don't bug me.
But Amaziah paid no heed. It was God's doing in order to deliver them up because they worshipped the gods of Edom. King Joash of Israel marched up, and he and King Amaziah of Judah confronted each other at Beth Shemesh in Judah.
Yeah. So not only did Amaziah not even get out of his own country, they meet in Judah. The battle is going to take place there. And again, it's already told you that, this is because Amaziah is worshiping Edomite gods. Um, and again, you can make the argument that Amaziah had an issue because the Ephraimites had come in and raided the country. I mean, he didn't even say that, but he had a reason to not be happy with Israel because they were letting raiders come in to the country. So you can make the argument, but it's already been set up. You already know he's got to be punished.
The men of Judah were routed by Israel, and they all fled to their homes. King Joash of Israel captured Amaziah, son of Joash, son of Jehoahaz, king of Judah, in Beth Shemesh. He brought him to Jerusalem and made a breach of 400 cubits in the wall of Jerusalem from the Ephraim gate to the corner gate.
Yeah. So he captures him in battle, completely routs the army, captures him in battle. Joash of Israel comes into Jerusalem, pulls down 600 feet of the gate of the wall, from one gate to another, from one of the sections. He just pulls it down. Pulls it down. That's a complete humiliation. I'm going to come into your capital and tear down one of your greatest treasures, which is your wall, the wall of the city. I'm going to pull it down.
Then, with all the gold and silver and all the utensils that were to be found in the house of God in the custody of Obed Edom, and with the treasuries of the royal palace, and with the hostages, he returned to Samaria.
He took the stuff out of the temple. He brought it back to Samaria. He brought it back to the capital. He brought it back to the northern kingdom. He took the stuff out of the temple. The temple. Yeah, that temple. Stuff that the people had just spent time and effort replacing and restoring and adding. He took it back. I'm done. Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
King Amaziah, son of Joash of Judah, lived 15 years after the death of King Joash, son of Jehoahaz of Israel. The other events of Amaziah's reign, early and late, are recorded in the book of the kings of Judah and Israel.
That's about it. Not a good end. Not a good end.
From the time that Amaziah turned from following the Lord, a conspiracy was formed against him in Jerusalem, and he fled to Lachish. But they sent men after him to Lachish, and they put him to death there. They brought his body back on horses and buried him with his fathers in the city of Judah.
Yep. Another guy that dies. Not a natural death. He has to flee the capital because of this coup against him. And he doesn't survive either because when he flees to Lachish, another one of the cities of Judah, he goes there. I'll hide out there. No, they get him and they kill him. Now, it does say he's buried with his fathers in the city of Judah, with the assumption that maybe he is buried in the royal tombs. That maybe Amaziah was. Yeah. Now, it might be hard to find these places because we don't know. Here's the thing. The last time they're really described in detail is during the time of the Romans. So so Josephus knows where this stuff is. He mentions it. He tells us where it is. But were those tombs raided or excavated, or again, according to Jewish law, you don't go into a tomb and disturb it. We also know, because they're Jewish, that they're not supposed to have been buried with anything, with any gold or silver, or, there shouldn't have been that kind of stuff that they're buried with. Look, one of the reasons that Jews would do that is because they knew that if there's gold and silver in someone's tomb, someone's going to come in and steal it. And you're not supposed to disturb the buried, the people who've died. You're not supposed to disturb it. So one of the good ways of doing that is burying people with nothing. We also obviously believe that you don't need that in the next world. It's not coming with you because they buried it. Obviously, the Egyptians did not believe that. Obviously, the Vikings didn't believe that. There's a lot of people who didn't believe it. The more stuff you're buried with in this world, the more stuff you get in the next world. So you had to be buried with it. Well, that's why we keep finding Viking hordes, buried all around the coasts of England and Scandinavian countries. Every time we find one of those things, we go, oh, look at these wonderful treasure of coins we found. We don't find that in Judaism because we don't believe you take it with you. And we also, again, don't believe in disturbing the dead. So will we find stuff? Maybe, but we probably won't find what people normally would find. Or again, maybe that's why they'll be found, is because they were not disturbed in the first place. We'll see. So this is how he comes to an end, with another coup. And again, he lives into his 50s, early 50s. So we're going to read a little bit more, and then we are off the next 2 weeks. And the reason we are off is because many people told me they were out of town, which I respect, and we want people to not miss the last, because we're going to be doing 2 more classes in this amazing arc of reading the books of the prophets and the Ketuvim, the prophets, Nevi'im and Ketuvim, the prophets and the writings. But we want to finish it with everybody, and we don't want people to miss out, especially those who've been with us. So we're not in class next week or the 30th, but we will be back at the beginning of January to finish. Now, this is the next king we're going to read about, and we're just going to start with him. We're not going to finish his story because this king is actually one of the few kings that stands out in the list of kings that we have. I mean, look, the story of Joash surviving and becoming king at 7, that's an amazing story. But there are a few kings that actually stand out as kings who do things that are significant and who are obviously kings who had a big impact, largely because they were not killed at 50 or 47 or something like that, right? This is one of those. Though I will say his death is a weird death, but it's not these kinds of deaths that we've been reading about. So we're going to start with him right now. Melech Uziyahu, or Uzziah, Uziyahu in Hebrew.
Then all the people of Judah took Uzziah, who was 16 years old, and proclaimed him king to succeed his father Amaziah. It was he who rebuilt Elot and restored it to Judah after King Amaziah slept with his fathers.
Now, right off the bat, it's telling you he does stuff that's really good. One of them is he built Elot, which is in the area of Eilat. It's not Eilat. It's right near is Elot. It's on the Red Sea. It was one of the areas that was part of King Solomon's area, and other kings had been able to maintain that Red Sea port. They lose it sometimes. Why? Probably because the Edomites took it over. The Arabs took it over. Other people were able to control it. It's not near Judah. It's hundreds, 200 miles away, 150 miles away from the southern points of Judah, which are like Beersheba and obviously Hebron and those areas. It's far. It's very hard to keep that because there's desert in the middle and between it. It's just like it's very hard to keep that, but it's important because if you have that port, then you have the Red Sea, and then you can get down to Africa. You can go to you can go around the Arabian coast. It's very important, but it's not easy to keep for the kings of Judah. Heck, it's a target. Yemen keeps hitting it with rockets because it's the closest area that Yemen can hit. So a lot has suffered tremendous damage during the last couple of years from the Houthi rockets that have come out of Yemen. So it's still, I guess, and there's a lot of desert around it. All right, here we go.
Uzziah was 16 years old when he became king, and he reigned 52 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Jecoliah of Jerusalem. He did what was pleasing to the Lord, just as his father Amaziah had done.
Well,
Well,
did
that's
he?
odd.
Did Amaziah really do what was pleasing? Well, I guess he did for a little while. He did for some time. Uh, and Amaziah definitely wasn't one of the worst kings, as we've read, but he's not great. But there was a time when he was good. Look, it's already told us he's at least off to a good start. And it also tells us he reigned for 52 years. That's long. That's longer than his dad even lived. His dad was 54 when he died. But it's longer than his grandfather lived, longer than Joash lived. So Uzziah is a guy who, I mean, you do the math. He's about 70 years old when he dies. I will say this, he does not die a pleasant death. It's also not, you think, well, the guy seems to be off to a good start. It's a weird thing, again, that he does not live a very, well, he doesn't die a pleasant death, I'll put it that way.
He applied himself to the worship of God during the time of Zechariah, instructor in the visions of God. During the time he worshiped the Lord, God made him prosper. He went forth to fight the Philistines and breached the wall of Gath and the wall of Yavneh and the wall of Ashdod. He built towns in the region of Ashdod and among the Philistines. God helped him against the Philistines, against the Arabs who lived in Gurbal, and the Maonites. The Ammonites paid tribute to Uzziah, and his fame spread to the approaches of Egypt, for he grew exceedingly strong. Uzziah built towers in Jerusalem on the corner gate and the valley gate, and on the angle, and fortified them. He built towers in the wilderness, and hewed out many cisterns, for he had much cattle, and farmers in the foothills and on the plain, and vine dressers in the mountains and on the fertile lands, for he loved the soil. Uzziah had an army of warriors, a battle-ready force who were mustered by Yeiel the scribe and Maaseiah the adjutant under Hananiah, one of the king's officers. The clan chiefs, valiants, totaled 2,600. Under them was the trained army of 307,500, who made war with might and power to aid the king against the enemy. Uzziah provided them, the whole army, with shields and spears and helmets and mail and bows and slingstones. He made clever devices in Jerusalem, set on the towers and the corners for shooting arrows and large stones. His fame spread far, for he was helped wonderfully, and he became strong. When he was strong, he grew so arrogant he acted corruptly. He trespassed against his God by entering the temple of the Lord to offer incense on the incense altar.
So he did lots of good things. And he was very, very, he was like almost like a Solomon. He's a great builder. He built siege towers and ballistas and, he knew how to do all these things. He was really, really smart when it came to building and to cultivating the earth and to doing things that would help strengthen the country. He was a builder. But he decided he was going to go into the temple himself. He's going to do what the priests do. Well, that's not a good thing to do.
The priest Azariah, with 80 other brave priests of the Lord, followed him in, and confronting King Uzziah, said to him, "It is not for you, Uzziah, to offer incense to the Lord, but for the Aaronite priests who have been consecrated to offer incense. Get out of the sanctuary, for you have trespassed. There will be no glory in it for you from the Lord God. Uzziah, holding the censer and ready to burn incense, got angry. But as he got angry with the priests, leprosy broke out on his forehead in front of the priests in the house of the Lord beside the incense altar. When the chief priest Azariah and all the other priests looked at him, his forehead was leprous, so they rushed him out of there. He too made haste to get out, for the Lord had struck him with a plague. King Uzziah was a leper until the day of his death. He lived in isolated quarters as a leper, for he was cut off from the house of the Lord, while Jotam, his son, was in charge of the king's house and governed the people of the land. The other events of Uzziah's reign, early and late, were recorded by the prophet Isaiah, son of Amoz. Uzziah slept with his fathers in the burial field of the kings, because they said he was a leper. His son Jotam succeeded him as king.
So, not a good end. And as interestingly, John earlier said, can't you retire from king? No. But if you have leprosy, you can kind of go into retirement because you can't be out in public. So interestingly, his son Jotam became king when he was still king. But it was kind of like they were co-regents, because here's Uzziah, also known as Azariah. He had two names because earlier it said his name was Azariah. He's king for a really, really long time. But you can see that Jotam, his son, becomes king in 748. Well, he doesn't die till 740. So it means that for 8 years, Jotam ruled as the king while his dad was still alive. So you can see what happens here. You got a little co-regency. Now, I will tell you that we see that Uzziyahu, good king, but we're going to go out today with a little thing that you need to know about Uzziyahu. And that is, he's really well known from this. I'm going to play you a version or two of this as we go out. This is a song that became a popular song in the 70s. There's a line that we just read. It seems like a throwaway line, but man, did it become a big song. Big song. It was a Jewish folk song in Israel in the 60s, 50s and 60s, when Israel was really in its kind of like building mode, when the kibbutzim were being built and the people were reclaiming the land. And they looked at biblical lines and they said, well, here's a line. And the line is verse 9 in Chronicles. This isn't in Kings. This is in Chronicles. Vayiven Uzziyahu migdalim b'Yerushalayim. And they love that line. It's a good song. It's a good line. It's converted to a song. Uzziah built towers in Jerusalem and fortified them. And they skip the rest of the line. It goes, Vayiven Uzziyahu migdalim b'Yerushalayim, and then it finishes with the line, Vayichaskem. I'm going to play you one of the most famous versions of this, because this version was played in America. Yep, played in America. I'm going to play this version of it right here. This was in the 70s. But this was big.
ויבן עוזיהו מגדלים בירושלים ויחזקם ויבן עוזיהו מגדלים בירושלים ויחזקם
People know this song? This was a huge song. This was as big as because it gets Which also was kind of biblical. Play a little bit of this. You know the song.
Running away, there'll be no one to save, with the world in a grave. Take a look around you, boy, it's bound to scare you, boy, and you tell me over and over again, my friend, you don't believe we're on the eve of destruction.
So that's Barry McGuire. And that was Barry McGuire and the New Christy Minstrel Singers. This is the kind of music I was raised on. I was raised on folk music, so this was the kind of music that I listened to as a kid. But yeah, that's the song. Anybody recognize it?
That one, yeah.
The Vayiven Uziyahu. Yeah, that's a song that was based on a biblical line that became a line that just came out of Chronicles and became a song that people had a lot of fun with. Well, wish everyone the rest of Hanukkah should be happy and get off to a little bit better start maybe today than it did a couple days ago. The rest of Hanukkah should be good. And we'll see everybody in a few weeks. Again, we're not going to be here next week or the week after. But for everyone, if you're traveling, be safe. And we look forward to seeing you on the other side of this on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, in the new year, the calendar, the secular calendar. We'll see you hopefully tomorrow night for our Wednesday night class, where we're going to be looking at Hanukkah, the real story of Hanukkah. The story they don't teach you when you're a kid. The story that's in the book of Maccabees. So we're going to be doing that tomorrow night. And then, of course, Friday night at 7 o'clock, we'll have a chance to celebrate Hanukkah and Shabbat, give awards to some very deserving people. And then Saturday night is the vodka and latke party at our house. Gail, you're too far away for you to probably come and join us, but we'd love for you to.
Now I'm in Oregon, I'm even farther away.
I know, you're even further away, but what's the weather like in Oregon right now?
Rainy, and Alexa still thinks I'm in Yucaipa, so it keeps telling me the weather is 70, but no.
Oh, well, I'm sure it's a little different up there, but we miss you. And again, happy Hanukkah, everybody. Thank you for being here, and thank you for finishing out the year strong on the secular calendar. Take care, everybody, and thank you, Rosemary.
Thank you, Ally. Happy Hanukkah, everybody.
Take care, everybody. Bye-bye. Happy Hanukkah.
My wife's still on.